I think we're really experiencing a movement that we've never seen. And I just think to be a small part of the growth of our game right now, to be able to experience what we've known to be true for a long time, but so many more eyeballs and so many more people are buying into how special women's basketball is. So it's unprecedented, actually. And then for us in USC, as much as we're rivals, we partner with a vision to grow the game and to really, help captivate young boys and girls in Southern California for women's basketball. And it's been really fun to partner to that end.
And I can tell you, I have a 14-year-old daughter who is not at all a sports fan, but she got so into women's college basketball this year, so we had to watch Full Court Press, all 4 episodes. You are featured in portions of it. Have you seen all 4 episodes?
I have.
And if so, what do you think of your starring role?
Well, I don't know if I hope I don't have a starring role, but I am very, appreciative and proud of my star, which is Kiki Rice. And, I think that, and I love the job that Full Court Press did. I thought they told the stories of those magnificent 3 women really, really well. I thought they handled themselves with such grace, a courageous vulnerability, and just a willingness to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And I thought Kiki showed great humility, and I really thought it was well done, and not only great for UCLA and Iowa and South Carolina, but great for our game.
I know there is no easy answer to this question, but how does the sport continue to hold on to that momentum and interest that has grown over the past couple of years?
Well, I think one of them is what you're doing right now, is we have to continue to tell the stories. I think storytelling is such an important piece. So, being a part of the Big Ten Network and having that many eyeballs to be able to have these stories of these magnificent women, to be able to hopefully have distribution in more and more avenues. I think it means following this momentum all the way through this WNBA season. But I think storytelling, I think corporate sponsorship is a really big part of that. Corporate dollars coming behind that. This is not just a moment. This is a movement, and we want to be a part of it. We're not a charity anymore. We're not a let's come alongside them and check a Title IX box. We are a very good business investment. We are a product worth investing in, and corporate sponsorship's a big part of that. Corporate dollars coming along and giving validation to what we know to be true is really, really important. But I would say corporate sponsorship, distribution, and storytelling are the 3 big things to keep this thing going.
And you'll try to do so in a new league. So how does the move from one conference to another affect the way your program operates from a coaching standpoint, strategy-wise, recruiting, other aspects like that? Well,
it's been honestly nothing but good. I think that I've definitely watched the Big Ten this last season with a different kind of lens, figuring out, we actually played, obviously at Ohio State in a really featured game, which was excellent, and, really excited for the diverse competition that will be brought to us, and we just think it's spectacular. But I also think it's like anything. There's a shift in the landscape. You need to, as a leader, my responsibility is to study it, to get ahead of things, to learn the infrastructure and the landscape really quickly, and to put our program in a position to compete for championships. And so we're really excited about it, because I think that the reality is the Big Ten is leading the way in what we have known to be this new landscape of college athletics, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. I trust the leadership. I think there are new things. Change is hard, no matter how you slice it sometimes, but I think if you don't embrace it, you fall behind or even die off. And so I'm really thankful to be a part of a cutting-edge conference, one that doesn't just want to keep up, but one that wants to lead and set the tone. And that's what I believe the Big Ten's doing.
So the conference will have 18 teams, some great rivalries for current schools, great rivalries with incoming schools, also non-conference rivalries that are important as well. How do we build an ideal schedule with all of those things involved?
Ask me in a year. I think that, building an ideal schedule is obviously the big nut we have to crack, right? How do we continue to protect top teams to create seeding advantages in the NCAA tournament, but also try to get the most amount of teams into the NCAA tournament, especially in women's basketball this year, first year of unit distribution from the NCAA tournament. So all of a sudden, there's a financial implication that's never been there in women's basketball that I think has to be taken into account. But I think there's been a big deal brought about, oh, we're losing rivalries, we're losing this. And, you know, there is some of that, there's no doubt. But I think there's exciting new ones. We're going to be able to keep the ones that our fan base, I think, is most used to, in our case with USC. But I think there's going to be some wonderful new things that are happening. I think it's allowed us, the Big Ten has done a great job in coordinating and communicating with us as coaches so that we can be strategic in our non-conference schedule. For instance, I have South Carolina at home this year, and trying to figure out how the TV windows are going to work and how do we position ourselves to maximize those opportunities. We're playing in an MLK Classic in the Prudential Center in New Jersey, and trying to figure out how that can fit in the middle of the Big Ten schedule to make this an advantage for us moving forward. So really kudos and a shout out to the Big Ten office, who's navigating a really difficult new scheduling challenge, but I think they're doing a great job. And I think there's going to be some growing pains. There's no doubt about that. And I think we have to extend grace to this new era and just make sure we learn from every season. And I think we're going to end up in a great spot.
And once we get into the postseason, I know there's been a debate, and it happens amongst coaches, amongst players, certainly amongst the conference, as to whether you find a spot that fits for the tournament and you keep it there, or you rotate it around for more people to be able to see. What are the pluses and minuses?
You know, I don't know if I'm that great of a person to ask, because I've only experienced one side of that model. I've experienced we had our conference tournament for the women in Seattle and then in Vegas. And I've been 13 years and I've only experienced that sort of thinking. But I think at this point you have to be ready to see what it teaches us. And so if it means a rotating, conference tournament, then let's make that work. I think that, we really do have to see these are uncharted waters, and we have to be like, okay, how do we advantage the Big Ten to take advantage of this national landscape, as well as keep our local markets and our local fan bases happy at the same time?
What about the proposed changes to the tournament in terms of locations and maybe moving them to larger arenas where the sub-regionals are not played at the highest seeded teams?
Well, I think that's an interesting timing, right? Whether or not we're ready for that next step. We've tried it once before in women's basketball, and we sort of we weren't quite ready. So it's hard to make a big change like that when we're experiencing unprecedented success. And we did have upsets. We did have very close games in the first and second rounds. I was one of those. We had to come down from 10 points down against a great Creighton team a few years ago who beat Iowa at Iowa, Caitlin Clark's sophomore year. So I think that there is really still great intrigue in those games. What you don't want to see is the home teams just blowing everybody out for those first and second rounds. And I think those are the kinds of things that we're going to have to weigh out. I would say we're a couple of years away, but I definitely always want to be open to the next right step.